Good evening. We're going to start in just a minute. We were waiting for the interim chief to arrive, but it looks like he's tied up. So we will likely defer to Major Stout, who's also with TPD. So Major Stout is the commander of District 2, correct? Still the commander of District 2, didn't get fired today.
Not over yet.
It's true, it's not over yet. So if you don't know where District 2 is, if you know where Busch Gardens is, you know where District 2 is. It's on 30th Street. I'm not going to steal any of his thunder. For those who are watching this via Zoom at home, we've got 4 more of TPD's finest in the room with us. So why don't we give them a round of applause? So we really do appreciate what you all do every day out there, keeping the city safe for us citizens. So I'll turn it over to Major Stout.
Well, thank you all very much. I know you've got a lot on your agenda for tonight. So first of all, let me apologize on behalf of Interim Chief Delgado. So been a lot of changes here recently. So Chief Dugan retired after 31 years with the police department. Chief Delgado is the interim chief, but he's also still doing his old job as the assistant chief. So he's just trying to keep all the plates spinning at the moment. He had a meeting with the mayor that was supposed to be yesterday, was pushed to today, and they are still in there. So he does apologize. He was looking forward to coming and speaking with you all tonight, but you're stuck with me instead. So my name is Mike Stout. I am the major of District 2. I've been with the Tampa Police Department for 21 years. Out of those 21 years, roughly 19 of them have been spent either in District 3, where we now are, or the other side of Hillsborough, District 2, where I've done the majority of my time moving up from officer to detective, all the way through the ranks. So I'm very familiar with you all. You all are one of the more interesting associations, and you actually cross district borders, as some of you are aware, and others of you might not be aware. So you get a lot, it works out good. You get a lot of attention. So it's probably a good thing. So real quick, I'll just tell you the question that always comes up. A is crime. You all's crime still remains very low. We still remain very low for a city of our size. Violent crime has gone up across the nation. That's been the same here in the city of Tampa. But still, for a city of our size compared to other cities, we are doing heads and tails better. You locally here right down to the OSHNA area, you've got still across the whole city a lot of auto burglaries, and the vast majority of those now, well over 90%, are unlocked vehicles. So until we get a little bit better about locking our cars, they don't seem to be stopping or slowing down. And the vast majority of our stolen cars now, the clicker that now starts the cars is left in the car. So either in ladies' purses or in the glove box or just in the cup holder. Or some of you all like to leave both cars unlocked, but you try to fool the criminal by putting the opposite keys in the other car, but they're figuring it out and they're taking those keys and going right over to the other car. So again, anything you can do to help us out with locking those vehicles. We really don't see a lot of smashed windows. It really is crimes of opportunity today. And unfortunately, we're giving them a lot of opportunity. So again, if you can help us with that, we would love that. We had a little bit of a burglary pattern up and down Florida Avenue, and it moved over to Armenia Avenue here in the last month. Mostly commercial burglaries that were occurring at night. They hit Tripp's Diner. They hit one of the smoke shops. They hit another couple places. We did make arrests in that case. It was a guy that is just out of prison for doing burglaries. So hopefully he'll be going back. We'll try again. So that really has been the keys to you all's crime. So I'll tell you about the 4 officers we brought tonight, because they actually represent 2 of the newest squads in our department that I am very excited about, both of them. Officer Corporal Monty and Officer Krillman are part of our community engagement, our community partnership and engagement squad. So what we've realized is we really wanted to get more focused on the individual needs of the different neighborhoods, the different kids, getting the PAL program better tied into the rich houses better tied into what we're doing as a department. So community outreach is their job each and every day. So they really have enhanced our ability to do community-oriented policing significantly. And the squad has been a great success that I think we're probably looking to potentially increase on in the coming year. So again, anything they can do for you, they don't get tied down with the answering of calls as much as some of our other units. So they have time to really focus on problems that take more than 5 minutes to solve, which is really a great thing to have them. The other folks over here, Officer Anderson, and I butcher your name every time. Okay, so they are from the behavioral health unit. They're going to get up and talk to you a little bit. Obviously, across the nation, it's been a very big topic, and it's no different here in Tampa Bay. So many of our cases, and unfortunately, so many violent resists and even deaths of offenders and police officers are really tied to mental illness. So we now have a unit that has clinical psychologists and officers working together to go out to some of these calls and take some different approaches, slowing it down, seeing how they can get services for some of these folks where we have repetitive calls of the same nature before it spirals out of control. And they're going to come up and talk to you in just a half a second about that. Are there any questions I can answer for any of you? Yes, ma'am.
What about narcotics in the area?
So narcotics remain a problem across really everywhere. So what we see is a lot of narcotics users. So to back it up a little bit, and it's a long-winded explanation for you, but when we shut down, we at one point were leading the nation in pill mills. So when we shut down those pill mills, what we saw was unexpected, to be quite honest, which was heroin, fentanyl, spice flooded into really across the US. And these folks that had been using the pills, the prescription opiates, now started using heroin and some of the other fentanyl type products. So we still make a lot of narcotics arrests. We still try to get a lot of offender treatment. We try to target the dealers. We still do search warrants nearly every day of the week. So we do still certainly enforce it, but especially up and down the main city corridors, Nebraska, Fowler, somewhat on Bush, Florida Avenue. Yeah, it's still there. It's still in the hotels, and we're still very conscious of it and working to eradicate it, but it is a struggle, to say the least.
What about when we were aware that there is one house in the neighborhood? How is that addressed? Because what I was told one time is that you can't do anything because if you have to know that they're actually dealing in the house. And of course, I didn't go over there and buy anything.
That's good, yeah.
And then I have photographed people having seizures and things, and I was told that that could be that they're having a epileptic fit or something. So you couldn't use any visuals that I gave or any photographs. You couldn't take my word, and you couldn't go into the house to see. And I was told, like, I guess about 8 years ago, that probably somebody could go in and undercover and go in and buy, but 8 or 9 years later, it's still going on. So how do you address, it's not a big drug dealer, but the homeless go to his house to buy.
So we'll make sure Corporal Monty gets your address and the address of that occurring. So I don't know who told you that, and I'm sorry that's gone on for 8 or 9 years. There are different tactics from, trying to purchase narcotics to doing traffic stops when folks leave the house. There's a lot of different tools in the tool bag for dealing with problems like that. You are right in the fact that, the entire system of Constitution really makes it very, it takes a lot to get a search warrant to go into someone's house. It's, one of the most inalienable rights we have in this country. So it does take a lot of documentation, a lot of work to get a search warrant. But again, those are still things we're doing and doing pretty constantly. So I think Tim Keyports has given me the get off the stage sign. So, and he's in charge in this room. So do we have time for the behavioral health folks? Okay, perfect. Great. Yep. Great. All right. Well, thank you all again, and I'll be around if you have any questions.
Hello, good afternoon. So we are part of the behavioral health unit. It's a pilot program, brand new with the Tampa Police Department. We're extremely excited that this program has been implemented. So what we're focusing on, what we're focusing on are basically addressing anybody in the community that is experiencing a mental health crisis. So we have partnered with other programs such as DACO, ACTS, Northside. There's a couple, Grace Point, that has partnered with us. And what we're doing is that we are, as police officers, riding with a licensed clinician that are assisting us with evaluating and assessing anyone that's having a mental health crisis. I'm sorry, I get super nervous talking out in front of people, but we'll get there. And just our objective is to reduce Baker Acts, reduce deadly force scenarios. What we're trying to do is be connecting anyone that's experiencing a mental health crisis with resources. We are not just stopping at the Baker Act situation. Once they get dismissed, we go to appointments, we assist them with whatever we can to get them connected with resources so they're not being involved with law enforcement. So they're seeing our faces with the behavioral health unit and not so much with the patrol units that are maybe not being able to spend the extra time to look into some other items. So we're just excited, and we were just here to assist the community with whatever we can. Sorry, any questions for us? Yes, sir.
Are the social workers that are running along with the TPD, are they actual officers as well?
No, so we are the sworn officers, and they're going to be licensed clinicians. So they will be in some kind of form of uniform, but they do not have firearms. They're just going to be.
They're just there for the communication at that point.
Correct. So to assist us, you know, what we're looking for is tools that can help us better communicate, better interact with the community. So we wear many hats. We know a little bit of everything, but they're the professionals. They're going to be the experts, and they're going to be there with us to assist us with helping that community member. Yes. So we are putting these clinicians through training to know how to interact with us. So we're going to be a partnership for sure.
Why don't we take one more? Go ahead.
No, we will have direct number that will be for our office, but no, still be the non-emergency or 911 depending on the emergency or the matter at hand. But we will have also an office number that can be called to address any concerns too.
We also get, if a mental health call comes out, we get notified on our MDT anywhere in the city. So we'll actually respond anywhere. So anytime a mental health call comes out, we get notified on our computer of that call so we can try to respond.
Okay, how about one more and then we'll
How do you
move on.
know when it's a mental health call? What gives you the criteria for that?
It's usually when there is a mental disorder involved, or there's a crisis, or there's a suicide attempt, an overdose, anything in that realm that's medical kind of as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
I don't know if you all noticed it or not. You probably didn't because you're sitting so far back. Officer Torres has a USMC badge on her uniform, and Officer Anderson has a Army badge. And that's something cool that TPD does. They recognize former military members with their previous service. So if you do interact with a police officer on the force, check out all the bling that they're wearing, because some of it's pretty meaningful, especially I'm an Air Force veteran. So that's pretty awesome that our chief, I don't know which chief implemented that or how far back that goes, but that's a really neat touch. And just engage them. So if you see them at McDonald's, maybe buy them a cup of coffee, but ask them about, you know, because there's other devices that they'll wear that indicate time of service or length of service, things like that. Is there anything else for our police officer representatives tonight? Any other quick questions? So I'm very excited about the behavioral health. I know that Pinellas started that up a couple of years ago. I read about it in the paper. I was talking to our former chief, and he's like, hey, it takes time, Tim, just hold your horses. And so now the fact that you all are out there as a resource for the community is fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to have
One thing, I think that their roll call program that they have is fabulous.
Yeah. So for those who don't know what roll call is, you can host a roll call at your house. They'll usually do shift changes at 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Is that correct?
Well, if you really want the 6 a.m. There's a 6 a.m. There's a.
Carol Gordon's house, 6 a.m.
Sure, yes, it's 7 p.m.
and a 7 p.m. So you can host a roll call. Usually that's done in conjunction with the neighborhood watch group. So find out who, which your neighborhood watch group representative is. For Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association, Michael Gwynn, who's not here tonight. He's our safety coordinator. He works very closely with the liaisons in each of the D2 and D3, since we bridge both, which is Hillsborough Avenue. But I'm going to keep moving. We've got Mary Lou, is that correct? With FDOT. So Susan, if you'll hit the next slide. And I'm going to say goodbye to the police department. I know you all need to get back on shift. So thank you again. So for those who've been to the Seminole Heights market, the FDOT group has had a tent there. I was there, I guess it was last month. I guess it was the beginning of this month. And I popped into the tent. I said, hey, could you guys come to the meeting? And here they are. So FDOT is trying to be responsive to our requests. I know that's largely why most of you are in the room. She's got a lot of slides. So let's hold the questions to the end unless it's something really burning and we can back up to those slides. But let's give Mary Lou an opportunity to speak. And then we've got Mauricio, who's going to kind of provide a little bit of a counterpoint. He's got a good video. We have a lot to cover tonight, so we'll just keep rolling. We're just going to click for you.
Okay, so I just say click. Okay. First of all, I'm Mary Lou Godfrey. I am the project manager of the project that's in construction currently. And we have some people here today that are going to be in construction. So you will be seeing them on a daily basis. Adam is here, so he's with Consor. And we also have Bill Adams from Consor. And we also have Justin Hall as part of our head of our planning department. Was very instrumental in this project moving forward in the PD&E. And we remember seeing many of you at some of our public meetings that we had, particularly at the church, the Methodist Church. So we really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and want to work with you as this project moves forward. So I think you all have probably seen this sketch. This is just an overall of the project limits. We are widening or adding an additional lane in each direction. So everything that you see now will remain, except there will be an additional lane added. And we'll also be adding wider shoulders to accommodate buses in the future, if that becomes an option with our bus system. Part of the project, it will follow the urban design guidelines that have been set up. As in many of our projects, as you can see, we have special lighting, we have special monotubes, which are the white that you see here in many of our projects on I-275 as we modernize the interstate. The underpasses will have new LED lighting, and you'll be seeing wall pack lighting that will be added. In addition, we will be using a new, we're trying it, stain that will be mildew resistant, so that maybe that we can clean up under the underpasses, add brighter lighting, the LED lighting, and that's be part of this project, in this project limits. Many of you have been asking us about the noise barriers, and this is a schematic of the noise barriers that will be included with the project. If it's on the barrier, I know Adam said he's been getting a lot of questions about this. It'll be the 8 feet, and then we have barriers that will be at the shoulder that will be 14 feet. The picture on the right is how they look from the outside, from your properties. The other is how it looks on the roadway. Also, the walls will have different textures. If it's in the historic area, then you will be seeing this rustic color as seen here. And if it's outside, it will be the shell color. So at Florabraska, Lake, and Chelsea, we were asked many years ago to look at opportunities to take those walls that, as you can know, that are sloped, and to pull them back and provide wider sidewalks So in these locations, there will be 15-foot sidewalks. Currently, they're 5 feet under the underpasses at Florabraska, Lake, and Chelsea. And at MLK, you will also see a retaining wall under the bridge with a slit for the slip pavement and a widened concrete sidewalk. In this location, okay, that's okay. In that location, it's even wider than the 15 feet. Sure. It seemed like it was echoing, so I was trying to kind of get the balance here. Maybe it's this math. Okay. At Osborne Avenue, you will see that you will have the rust-colored wall. You'll have a gravity wall. And part of the city of Tampa, in coordination with the FDOT, is they're going to be adding a stamp on the sidewalk in one of the panels on both sides. And after we're finished, that wall that you see, Art by City of Tampa, they will come back. It'll be a smooth wall, and they are going to have a mural that they're going to have an artist prepare. Again, so Hillsborough Avenue will also have the stamped in the sidewalk. It will also have the Art by the City of Tampa, but this sidewalk will be even wider. They're about 20+ feet wide under Hillsborough Avenue. Just consistent with the urban design guidelines, there will be specialty fencing. You've probably seen it in many of our projects, just so that we have that consistent black fence throughout the project. And these are some of the examples of the fencing. Again, more locations of fencing. As we put the noise barriers on the shoulder, when we have either a wall or it's on the what we call the shoulder, which is several feet from the roadway, it will open up some opportunities that you didn't have before. Because as you can see on the top left, there's a fence, and that's where the right-of-way or the property that's owned by the Department of Transportation. When we put the wall a little bit closer to the roadway, that space will be open. What to expect during maybe I should move this. No, I guess I can. Okay. What to expect during construction? There will be taking place during the daytime and nighttime hours. Work will require lane closures will cover at night between 9 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. and also occasionally closures at night between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. And again, there will be advanced signing to let you know about those closures. We are having a construction open house that's coming up November 4th, and I have information to provide for you so that you can attend either virtually in person. It'll be from 11 to 1 right out here. The actual will be here, right out here where the buses load. You can drive through, you'll go to a parking spot, you'll get information. We'll have representatives there to answer any questions you might have. If you're looking at, I live here, what's the impact of construction in this area? We'll be able to pull out the maps and give you more specifics. Again, one more thing. A very important site to look at, and we have some cards that you can take with you. You can scan on your phone and you'll get updates on lane closures. If you want to know what's happening on the project, you can just, Mauricio has used this site, I'm sure. Yeah. You can go and you can see what's happening on the project. A great site to get information, and the link is here, and we'll also have cards that you can scan so you can get more information. This is what that site looks like, and this is where the lane closures will be put, and also any more specific drawings. If you want to be looking at some more exhibits, you want more information, you can look in there and you can find these plans. Thank you. I do have Mauricio, I know specifically asked if we could have handouts. So we have handouts on the project. We also have handouts on the construction open house, which again can be in person or virtually. And it's also during lunch and then also in the evening of November 4th. And I also have some cards, so you could have those if you want more information to scan on your phones.
So I know that probably gonna be a lot of questions. We'll try to do the best we can. There may be some questions from Zoom. So we'll open those up as well. We'll try to go through this quickly. Mauricio did prepare about a 6-minute video of some of this plus a few other things. So we'll watch that next. But let's allow a few questions. I think the first question on a lot of people's minds is, when do we have an opportunity to inject to this project, specifically things like the art that's going to be on the underpass. It says City of Tampa art. You know, it's our neighborhood collectively, and I imagine everybody in the room might have a different perspective of what they would like to see as they're driving up and down Hillsborough Avenue or MLK or other cross underpasses. When do we have an opportunity to provide that kind of feedback?
That is being handled by Robin Nye at the City of Tampa, and we can provide you information on how to contact Robin during construction to get the stamps. There is Adam is familiar with that number to just see what stamp is being put onto the sidewalk. The idea from the City of Tampa was to coordinate the stamp with the murals so that it was and I know she's in the process of working to get an artist involved. So she would be the person to contact.
Okay, let's just quick questions. Go ahead, Tom.
I'm not a civil engineer, but I think there's one question that I know most of my neighbors, I'm a real estate agent, I drive constantly around this area. But what was the forethought of widening 275 another lane prior to widening the I-4 interchange? Seems like we're now going to funnel even more traffic into an area that is completely congested, it's completely out of control. They stopped 3 lanes across during rush hour traffic. Now we're gonna put a 4th lane in there for us to stop. So I'm just wondering, why do this before the real problem?
Can you repeat that question for our Zoom audience?
Okay, the question is, why did we start on this I-275 and widen it first before we worked on the interchange at I-4 and I-275? Is that correct?
North and south.
North and south. Very good question. It was a matter of our ability to get funding for the project. We were able to get funding for this piece of the project, but not for the interchange just till recently with the stimulus funding. I know that doesn't really answer your question, but that's how it happened. But we were recently able to get funding for the downtown interchange through the stimulus funding. And some of that we were able to design the 2 projects so that they coordinate with each other. It wasn't like they were done independently. We kept working on the downtown to see when we could get funding for it. And so they do complement each other, the lanes, how they line up. The design complements each other, but that's basically the reason.
This is also going into 1 lane.
When we finish the downtown, which is going to let in June of 22, it will be 2 lanes going.
We have another question from Doug.
Yeah. In 2003, 2006, there was a major redesign of Malfunction Junction, which was promised to solve all the problems. And everyone admits that, you know, within 15 minutes of the completion of that project, it had failed. Why would we think that this project would succeed in lowering commute times, producing more safer outcomes, when no instance in the history of interstate widening in cities has ever produced that outcome? I mean, what is special about this project that makes it a good idea as opposed to just doing nothing?
as you know, the area is experiencing extreme growth in our area. So anything that, you know, we are having wider shoulders so that buses could be used on this area. When that becomes an option, we are looking at opportunities with our interstate to modernize them as we are including these projects.
But
Um,
it's never worked before. Why will it work now?
Well, I mean, that might be, you know, like you said, we tried to look at,
And you failed.
well, I certainly understand your thoughts, but we have shown through our modeling with our traffic that this will help the area.
The same modeling that said in 2003, 2006 was a good idea.
Well, of course, as you know, I know you came to a lot of our meetings. We tried to look at opportunities to redo the entire West Shore, the downtown interchange. And there was tremendous impact to right away. And so we looked at other options, and this was an option that we could move forward with and look at opportunities for safety, operation, and capacity. So.
Just finally, what reason do we have to believe that this will work when everything else has failed?
We have modeled it. We have gotten okay from the Federal Highway Administration. We've demonstrated that it will improve the operation and the safety at this.
So Mary Lou, is this on? Yeah. So I'm just, for those who are watching on Zoom, I guess this community would be very frustrated, obviously, with the rebuild of the downtown interchange more than once, maybe 3 times now. And now we're adding a safety lane, both coming off of I-4 northbound and then coming south on 275, going west on I-4. And as was pointed out, this community largely doesn't think it's going to really solve the problem. So I know you're not going to be able to pull up a report out of your back pocket. Can your team go back and send us an update on the information that might be sought here tonight?
Yes, certainly. We will, we did have a planning PD&E study, and we'll certainly make that available. So you can review it and see how it was approved to move forward with. We
Okay.
certainly can do that.
All right. And I agree with the comment about adding an additional lane to 275 before that safety additional lane is added to the downtown interchange. Doesn't seem logical. I do understand additional money was available and it's a sequencing. So I'm going to allow a couple more questions and then we're going to show Mauricio's video.
Thank you. We've all heard that there's a possibility that one of the lanes will be a toll lane. Can you tell us tonight that there will never be a toll lane on 275, or is that still a possibility?
No, based on your input, we have the tolling will occur on I-75 and not on I-275. In this section.
No toll lane ever.
From I-4 all the way to I-75, there will be no tolling.
Okay, thank you.
With addressing and doing the reconstruction underneath the overpasses, widening, for one, why would we go 20 feet wide underneath the Hillsborough overpass? And what are you doing to address the homelessness camps that are on top underneath the overpasses?
Part of when we had our community outreach, we were asked to cut back the walls because, as you know, it was very easy for homeless to make that journey to the top. And we were asked to make it more of a pedestrian friendly and make it more difficult for access to the top of those areas. And that's what we have provided. And I know Mauricio was very involved in many of those meetings we had at one time. I see a lot of familiar faces. So that was the reason.
I have a question from the Zoom chat. Will construction of the sound barriers coincide with the road construction, or will the sound barriers or highway come first?
And I certainly can let construction answer this, but because the barriers will be on the shoulder, it would interfere with the other construction. So the noise barriers will be near the end of construction when they'll be installed.
Hi, Patrick Thorpe. You said that part of the construction will present opportunities that weren't present before. How do you think that widening the highway to move more cars through our neighborhood will encourage people to stop and shop locally and help benefit our community by improving quality of life to actually get people to stop and spend time here rather than just pass through at high speed?
Well, I believe that perhaps some of the underpass improvements, some of the art that's being added, some of the opportunities where the noise barrier will allow for more area that is currently fenced. Perhaps maybe people will make stops at the exits to visit your area. That might be an opportunity.
I have another question from chat. Why can't buses use existing lanes of traffic?
They can, and they will when, but they do have the opportunity to use the outside. They were made wider for the buses to have their own access when perhaps the lanes are perhaps a little congested and they have their own access. And also the inside will be slightly wider for evacuation routes, because we do have some areas that this is an evacuation route, I-275, so that allows for that as well.
And our final question, are there any plans to improve surface streets as traffic will increase in our neighborhood during construction?
Certainly as part of construction, if there is impacts to the surface streets, it is the responsibility of the contractor to bring it back to the condition it was in when we started construction. So they certainly will, be responsible for any damage that they do to local streets.
Okay, I'm gonna, thank you very much. You don't have
Thank
to
you,
leave
Mary.
unless you don't want to. Mary Lou's got a very tough job, obviously. So I know that she brought several people from the FDOT team. Let's do this. It's 7:10-ish. We're gonna show this video that Mauricio put together, and we're gonna try to sync it up on Zoom as well. So we got a technological feat if that actually occurs. And then we'll go back into a few more Q&A if that's okay with the FDOT team. Okay, because I think this will illuminate some of the other concerns that our neighborhood has. I don't know that we're gonna get audio, Mauricio, so you may want to.
Department of Transportation substantially reduced the amount of widening that was initially proposed. This project is scheduled to break ground within the next couple of months and last a few years. So at a recent Cafe con Tampa meeting, I asked District Secretary David Gwynn to explain what was happening north of Martin Luther King to Hannah Avenue. So please listen to what he has to say.
David, thank you very much for what you've been doing. You've been doing this. Could you introduce yourself? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Mauricio Roses. Thank you, David. Not so much as a question as it is. Can you explain the project that's about to break ground north of MLK? Can you explain on that, please?
Sure. So this is a project on I-275, essentially from just north of downtown interchange to around Sly. So I have a video on our website. go to Cafe Net's website, it shows kind of the problem we have. But in addition to the problem of the 2 lanes getting on the I-4 from 275 and the 2 lanes coming off of I-4 to the north of 275, if you want to get in that lane for I-4 coming south, you gotta go back to okay before you can even get in. And then people are backed up, and you can't get over it, so that's where a lot of problems occur. If you go back to that way for people, I think every day, around I-4 to the north of 275. So you get that, there's usually, a lot of traffic out there. If you don't get out that lane before you're okay, you have to get off. And so what this project is doing, within the existing right of way, and mostly within the existing pavement that's out there, is adding an additional lane all the way up to north of Hoover Avenue up near Slide. That's so people can either get in the correct lane earlier and get out of the main line, or be able to have a longer distance to be able to merge over. So that fits in right with the downtown interchange project. So that, the two of them together work. That's starting construction this month. The other good thing on that is it gave us the opportunity to access several funds to build the wind wall along that stretch of 275. There's very specific rules on you have to meet regarding putting in those walls. So that's essentially what we're doing. We're also making some improvements at some of the interchanges, minor traffic operation safety improvements as well.
As you can see from this image, there will be 1 lane added northbound, 1 lane added southbound, but this is not considered a complete rebuild, unlike the downtown interchange. There you will see significant changes to the Columbus Avenue and Martin Luther King underpass. The DTI project will begin sometime in the next several months. So we will have a lot of construction going on for the next several years. Now let me expand on the slides provided by FDOT. Let's begin at the Hillsborough Avenue and I-275 intersection. That entire area is going to be rebuilt. So instead of having a slanting slope, it's going to be vertical. We would like to see red brick fascia for the walls along that area because it lines up with the historic district. The new structure will also include public art from local artists. Noise barrier walls will be put in on both east and west side of I-275 from the downtown interchange all the way up to Hannah Avenue on the south side. But they will not have the same brick structure. The brick structure or the brick print is limited only to the historic area. It is more expensive, but we should see continuity as part of the structure. The noise barriers along the shoulders will be 8 foot to 14 feet. Fencing will be removed and replaced along the frontage roads. They do plan to add fencing along the crossroads to prevent access along the right of way between private property and I-275. The underpass of Chelsea, the underpass of Osborne will not be completely redone. Instead, they're going to add what they call gravity walls and fencing to keep homeless people from seeking shelter. But that does not make them safer for students and all pedestrians. The underpass of Osborne will have public art installations. And that's it. So what can we do better and engage the Department of Transportation and engage the city and the county to improve Osborne and Chelsea? Everyone's talking about public safety being number 1. Well, Osborne Avenue has a high density of kids walking through it. There's Broward Elementary School, Hillsborough Middle School and High School, and the Seminole Heights Library. I bring this up because there's a state law that says all roads within a 2-mile radius of the school must have sidewalks. What better opportunity to make this happen while there's construction, ongoing construction on I-275? In fairness to the Department of Transportation, it is not within their scope to provide sidewalks. If the city and the county commissioners ask the Department of Transportation to partner with them, then most likely they will. So it's our job as citizens to contact our elected officials so we can see the improvements on Osborne and Chelsea. There is an unanswered question about this project, and that is, what is the Department of Transportation doing to reduce the number of cars that travel along the highway and the roads adjacent to it? Within this project, there is nothing that they're doing to reduce the number of cars. though there is an opportunity on Taliaferro Road from Hillsborough Avenue all the way down to East Lake Drive, which connects to Robles Park. It would also connect to other bike trails, including the Ola Avenue Bike Boulevard. Now that's an exciting project scheduled to break ground within the next couple of years. So creating a bike walk trail along Taliaferro Road is a good start to reducing the number of cars on the highway and our local roads. It would also help to reconnect the east and west neighborhoods. It almost sounds as if I'm talking about reconnecting the east and west Berlin back in the day. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Please contact County Commissioner Gwen Myers, Mariella Smith, Pat Kemp, and Kimberly Overman. Also contact City Councilman Guido Maniscalco, Orlando Goods, John Dingfelder, and Joe Citro. Ask them to partner with FDOT. Add sidewalks as part of the construction on Osborne and Chelsea from Nebraska to Florida. Create a walk, bike area on Taliaferro Road from Hillsborough Avenue to East Lake to help reconnect our neighborhood and to reduce the number of cars on the road. Remember, this is about public safety and building back better.
Why don't you guys give Mauricio a round of applause? That took a lot of work. So
Is it working?
just in the interest of time, I'm gonna let the folks that are on Zoom, if they have any other questions, or if anybody else in the room has any questions, Doug does, we'll come to him in just a second. Anybody else that hasn't asked a question yet? Okay, and then is there anybody from the FDOT team that might want to address any of those specific items? And I know, Mary Lou, we're putting you on the spot and it's a tough crowd tonight, but I'm gonna give the mic to Doug first.
We have met.
I had
and
a
we have
question
talked
about the
Oh,
aesthetic improvements that have been promised. And we have a long and bitter and unhappy history with FDOT where there are supposed amenities, there are aesthetic improvements that are supposed to be put in. And through the magic of the design build system, they're put in the design, the budget runs out, things get built, and lo and behold, you can't do any of that. Is there any reason at all, aside from your telling us, is there any objective, actual reason to think that what's put in now will actually be built in terms of the aesthetic improvements?
well, they,
I mean, we have a contract.
Can we use the microphone just for the Zoom people? It doesn't sound like it works, but I promise you for Zoom it does.
Sure, I understand. So the department has a contract with Lane Construction, and that contract is for a very specific set of plans with specifications. And all of these improvements that aesthetic improvements that are shown that Mary Lou has presented, those are in the plans.
They're in
And-
the plans, are they budgeted?
They're budgeted. They're budgeted. They're in the contract. There's a,
Not in this design build?
this is not a design. This is not a design build contract. This is a design bid build, which means that the design is complete, 100% complete. And the contractor has already bid on it, and they have a contract to produce what is in the plans. So not a design build.
So just.
Two different delivery
Just
methods.
as a reminder. Because we're doing simulcast, this is like Monday Night Football. If you don't talk into this microphone, the people out on the Zoom can't hear what the question is. So if somebody asks a question, if the person answering either can restate it, or I'll try to help interpret. It's a very good question. I took a question over here, sort of along the same line. I'll bring the microphone back to you, sir. Or if you want to come up here, maybe that'd be even easier if you want to use this microphone. So we have medallions in the sidewalk. We have art, which hopefully we'll have input on in the underpasses. Your question, sir, was a very good one about, we have a lot of problems with homeless trying to camp out up underneath the underpasses. They're hoping to resolve some of that with either the vinyl coated fencing or by flattening the wall, so there is no slope for them to get up underneath. We had a question about trees, and we asked Secretary Gwynn. I know Mauricio is constantly asking Secretary Gwynn. We don't want palm trees put up because palm trees have endless maintenance requirements. And if we, and we do understand there's a budget here. So, but if we could have decent hardwood trees that will help with removing pollution from the atmosphere with all of the cars going by, I realize it's a minimal improvement, but it's better than a palm tree, which doesn't get maintained by FDOT. And again, you can speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Yes, so for this project, we don't actually have landscaping in the contract. That's going to come in a separate contract after this project's completed. Your concerns with palm trees versus hardwood oaks, trees with cover, has been heard by the department and is being considered in those future plans.
I have a question from the chat. Heidi says that, Mauricio, this is a great idea. Thank you. Could this idea be extended the entire length of Taliaferro all the way north to the river near Sulphur Springs and the Water Tower Park? And what role can FDOT play, since it is your right of way in getting something as simple as a bike lane, pedestrian lane installed?
The Teleferio is not the department's right of way. And that's also when you get past the interstate on Chelsea and those other streets, they are not within the department's right of way. So that's why Mauricio said we have to be a partnership with the department.
And I understand what she's saying, well, what Mary Lou is saying, but this is where it's up to us, because really the folks who are making the decision as to whether or not Taliaferro Road or any of these other things can happen is the city council and the county commission. So once the city and the county reach out to FDOT, then FDOT will determine whether or not they have available funds, where they can find stimulus money, but it needs to come from the city council and the county commission, not the other way around. FDOT will not initiate those things.
Yeah, my name is Justin Holm with FDOT, and probably one of the most important bodies in that conversation is actually the TPO. So most of those improvements, off-system sidewalk improvements, bike ped improvements, that would require prioritization. And so obviously talking to the county commissioners, city council, that's great, because most of them, in fact, all the ones I think you showed were all members of the TPO board. So you really have an opportunity to get your voice heard in front of multiple elected bodies. But to Mauricio's point, I mean, we always partner with the county and city on projects. I mean, the Heights Mobility Project's a prime example. So if the TPO board prioritizes it and the county and city come to us, with either a funding strategy or how they'd like to complete it, that's definitely something we would consider.
Okay, I'm gonna try to be a good arbiter. Let's take two more questions, because we do also have the pure presentation. We've got two folks that want to speak to that.
Oh, hi, I'm Brian from the Masons Hall on Nebraska Avenue. We'd like to extend greetings to you and commend you on a fine job that Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association has always done. You're certainly the envy of other neighborhoods in the Tampa Bay area. I do have a question, but prior to the question, I'd like to say that the National Highway Act that was enacted back in the 1950s was implemented for the sole purpose of moving armament and troops in the event of a national emergency. And what happened after that, the suburbs, the sprawl, that all occurred as a result of the interstate highway system being implemented. These highways were to not only move troops and armament, but also serve as landing strips and staging areas in the event of an emergency. And my question with that premise is, are you aware of any military considerations involved with this project in the event that MacDill Air Force Base would be attacked?
I do know that I-275 is an evacuation route in case we have inclement weather, but I am not sure about MacDill.
Okay, we could probably go on for an hour and a half. So I'm sorry, Charles, is it burning? No. Okay, I know everybody's got a question, probably 10 more in your hip pocket. We do appreciate your work, and I know that we all have to work together. I think Mauricio made a very solid suggestion to the residents here in the neighborhood that we need to continue to engage city council, county commissioners, who then can in turn go through the MPO process to talk to FDOT. The Taliaferro idea is fantastic, but as Mauricio pointed out, FDOT's not going to initiate it. We all know that there's limited dollars. So please continue to be activists, as you all generally are, and engage those individuals. If you don't know who they are, let us know. We'll get you their phone number and their email address. And I see you've got some cards to hand out.
Yes.
Okay, so Patrick, why don't you come on up and we'll,
And we also encourage you to attend the construction open house. You will see many of the people you saw tonight and also additional people that you can call. And we have cards you can scan like we spoke about if you want to have information daily on the project. And these, if you would pass these out for the construction open house.
absolutely. And we'll make sure we put those on our Facebook page like we always do. We try to keep everybody informed. Make sure you pick up, there's a specific reason that the newsletters were being handed out tonight. So again, thank you, Mary Lou. Yeah, we'll put these by the back door. You guys can grab them on the way out and we'll scan them and put them online. So if you look in the newsletter, there's lots of information for you about the FDOT project. There's a quick article that Patrick is going to speak to.
Good evening, everybody. We all having a good time so far?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. As some of you may know, my name is Patrick Thorpe. I am an architect here in the neighborhood. Tim asked me earlier this month to provide an article about HB 401 and then come speak to that article this evening. So if you have not had a chance, in this evening's newsletter, the article is in here along with an infographic about what is HB 401. Show of hands, does anybody not know what it is that I'm talking about? All right, I'm glad everybody here is informed. For those of you at home who don't know, HB 401 is actually now a state law. It is now Florida State Statute 163.32055. Basically, all it means is that cities no longer have the right to implement design guidelines within their city limits, except for certain exceptions. As you all know, Seminole Heights has its own zoning code that is different from the rest of the city of Tampa. So we also have in our zoning code residential building forms. So depending on where you are located in Seminole Heights, there are certain requirements that your house has, basically the appearance, right? This law now negates that in that zoning code entirely. So, okay, I have 30 minutes left before the library closes, so. So really, the big question is, how does this really affect us? The city of Tampa has said that one of the notices in the law states that if a city has an architectural review commission, then this law does not apply. As I said in the article, that argument is about as secure as a screen door on a submarine. Luckily, no home builder has tried to challenge that And everybody in the city so far seems to still be following the status quo and sticking to what is approved in the zoning code. And no one has tried to challenge it and say, well, I can build a circle if I want to because the law says I can. Unfortunately, we know that at some point somebody is going to challenge it, and there is not going to be much recourse that we have as a neighborhood. So this is, again, something that we do need to continue working with the city to monitor and make sure that if an opportunity comes up in Tallahassee to amend this state statute, we take every opportunity to protect it. Otherwise, all of our property values, just like the infographic shows, will start to decline because the character that is our neighborhood is not just our people, it is also the streets and the homes that we live in. And everybody here works very hard to maintain that aesthetic. And HB 401 really just guts us of that ability to self-regulate. So if there are any questions, I will take them. Otherwise, thank you all very much for your time.
Again,
Are you working with the Hillsborough Legislative Delegation?
No, I am not working directly with anybody on any of this. The city has pretty much stated their case, and they're just kind of letting it sit back right now, waiting to see if there is any action before they take any action.
Thanks.
so again, thanks, Patrick. For those who don't know, it's a lot of work putting this newsletter together. It comes out once a quarter, give or take. This edition is probably one of the best as far as information to read up on. So thanks again to FDOT. There's a whole full page article that Mauricio helped put together. There was a question a gentleman in the back asked about why are we not synchronizing the FDOT and the stormwater flooding relief project. The article doesn't explain it, but the reality is those are completely different organizations. And as you can imagine, trying to get everything synchronized, it just doesn't work. So it's going to be very tough driving around Seminole Heights pretty soon. This road right out here is going to be ripped up starting 1 November, and then the interstate's going to be ripped up. So it's going to be tough. So just strap in. It'll be done by 2026. Right around the corner. Next up is Pure, and there's an article on Pure. So John Ovink, who's a very good friend of Phil Compton, and Nancy Stevens, who's also here this evening, they are with the Sierra Club and Friends of the River. So great article. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I'm gonna get off the stage and let Phil fill you in on that.
Thank you, Tim. Good evening, Phil Compton. And here with me is Nancy Stevens, who's the conservation chair of your Tampa Bay Sierra Club, which once upon a time you've been here and will again. I'm good, my slides. And there we go. All right. Yes. So just how pure will water be that we drink? You know, most all of us drink the Hillsborough River. We are the Hillsborough River. The Hillsborough River flows through our veins, and there are going to be some changes to it. What the changes will be and how that will affect your health is up in the air, like a lot of things. This is from the city. What's the purpose of Pure? It's to maintain minimum flows on the river. It's to secure a drinking water supply in case of drought. With climate change, rain is much more unpredictable than it used to be. And there is new legislation that requires that the city do that. Next slide. This is where the water comes from. You'll see the Tippin treatment plant near Rolette Park, and then the Howard Kern down near Davis Island, the Howard Kern wastewater treatment plant. Those are the two main things that you need to know about. Next slide. So how does Pure affect the river? 2 possible options out of 16 were chosen by a panel of scientists. Both would provide for the minimum flow of the Hillsborough River. The second one, we would actually drink some of the water at times. Next slide. So what is this minimum flow? Why does the river need a minimum flow? Back in 1944, they built the dam, and it was designed so the water would always flow over it until about 1970. As the city grew, we thought we never ran out of water. Well, guess what? We ran out of water. And so the wildlife, the fish and the wildlife in the river took a big dive. And for 35 years, most of the year, there was hardly any water. So it's just one zone, one salty zone from just as salty as it is in Tampa Bay in the downtown up here to Rolette Park. Next slide. And it really wiped out the habitat of the river. And the river is where the fish that habit Tampa Bay are born and raised. So it's a tidal estuary. It's a very special place. So the river was in bad, bad shape. And the city's attitude back then under Dick Greco was, forget about it. Next slide. But we organized a campaign in 2000 and subsequent years. This is Pam Iorio, who got more grief about this than anything else in her first term, saying, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to restore the river. So civic activism, people like you, it works. Next slide. So now that's in the foreground, that's Sulphur Springs water coming into the river at the dam at Rolette Park. Did you know there's the dam at Rolette Park? A lot of people don't. And the water in the background there is from the bypass canal. That's really fresh water. Now it comes on the other side of the river, other side of the dam rather. Next slide. So how much water does the city of Tampa need? You know, if we're going to drought proof our city, well, then how much do we use? How much do we need? The city can take 82 million gallons a day. We have 50 million gallons a day going into the bay every day of highly treated wastewater. Okay, so numbers matter. Minimum flow is 15.5 million gallons a day, and the city can take up to 10, get some about 10 from Tampa Bay Pass Canal, and also there's Tampa Bay water. So Tampa Bay water, we can buy water from Tampa Bay water, 26.5 million gallons a day. So again, what are we going to do with all this wastewater? Do we need all that to be added to our supply for the river? Next slide. So what is the pure? The pure is we were putting into the deep aquifer, and then withdrawing it from a shallow aquifer. Then it goes into the Hillsborough River Reservoir under one of the options being considered, and then to the tip-in treatment plant where next stop is your tap, okay, your faucet in your home. Next slide. So what are the 6 components? Enhanced monitoring for contaminants, new contaminants that aren't in the water today, additional water purification, redirecting the purified water, again, 50 million gallons a day, that's a lot, recharging the purified water into storage wells, withdrawing that from recovery wells, and then using some of that water, about a third of it, for the minimum flow for the river. The rest of it, we don't know. Next slide. So there's questions. At this point, we only have questions. We don't have answers. Is it necessary? Do we really need all that water? How safe is it? What's in the water? How much water is there? Where's it going? What will it cost? And do we need it to meet the state mandates? Next slide. Camp Bay Sierra Club, Friends of the River, League of Women Voters believe that we should only do this if it can be clearly demonstrated that it won't jeopardize human health, not degrade the Floridan aquifer, like our wells in Seminole Heights, and not cause adverse effects to water quality and ecology of the Hillsborough River and the reservoir. Next slide. So the recommendations, the National Water Resource Institute said that there are recalcitrant organics, contaminants, that are in there that we're going to have to take out. Okay, that includes pharmaceuticals. Basically, everything you go to CVS, Walgreens for, you put in your body, put on your body, you take a shower, you go to the bathroom, it all goes down the drain, and that's not in your water to any extent today, but it could be if they don't filter it out. Okay, what's that do to you if you drink a trace amount of that for 50 years? If you're a child growing up here, we don't know. Also, we have a great fertilizer ordinance here that gets the nitrogen, phosphorus, has restored the river, prevented toxic algae blooms, but there's going to be putting back nitrogen, water with nitrogen and phosphorus into the river, so we got to take that out too. Next slide. There are systems, there are people doing this. Orange County, Disney World, Anaheim, Disneyland rather, Anaheim, they have a system using microfiltration, reverse osmosis, ultralight with hydrogen peroxide, and that produces high quality water. Will we do as good a job as they do in Disneyland for people here? That remains to be seen, because reverse osmosis in particular, very expensive, very expensive. It works great, but it's very expensive. Next slide. The first alternative is that basically it would go for the minimum flow. Next slide. Number two, we would treat the reclaimed water to higher than drinking water standards, pump it into the aquifer. When needed, enough water to provide the minimum flow would be pumped up. When needed, a dry year, water would be pumped into the reservoir for drinking water. And then it would also stop the taking water out of Sulphur Springs, which is making Sulphur Springs saltier. Next slide. So see the little circles? Those are the 10 recharge wells, 25 recovery wells, and guess where they are? Here, our neighborhood, right? What is this going to do? One of the applicants for the city just had a meeting, Nancy attended, with 3 applicants, and one of them was concerned about this, the one that the city seems to prefer, not so concerned about that. Next slide. Is it safe? What's the effect of it injecting all that water into the river, the aquifer, the reservoir? Again, what will it cost? Will it be time to do sufficient testing before the new system's installed? How much modeling will we do? Will we do, as our friends at DOT were telling us, do models to show how this will work? Or will we actually build a small model to see how this works in practice? And what will deep storage do to people who have wells in this neighborhood? Treatment methods. The city says pure water be treated to exceed federal and state drinking water standards, but we do not have standards for things like pharmaceuticals, hormones, pesticides, PFAS, all the stuff that if you drink enough of it, it ain't good for you, okay? It's really important that the city use the best available treatment methods, regardless of the cost, to remove these harmful contaminants. I think that's a reasonable thing, right? Are we going to put profits? The city makes money on water, okay? It helps support our city budget. That's great. Is it going to be as profitable as water is today? Not if they treat it right. Next slide. What you need to do, pay attention, ask questions, demand a world-class water supply like Disneyland has. Ask the city about their plans for reducing demand on processed drinking water. We really don't do a very good job in conservation. Half our water goes for St. Augustine lawns in Tampa, okay? Could we encourage people to do that? Some cities out west where they've had severe drought are paying people to rip up their lawns now. I'm not sure if that would need to do that, but is that something that we could even talk about doing? And, you know, let's only do what we need to do. What's the safety of our aquifers? What's the plan to assure the safety of the wells in Seminole Heights? What's the safety of these water contaminants? What's the plan to monitor and remove that? Are we going to do like they're doing in Orange County and Singapore and San Francisco, do it right? Or are we going to do it on the cheap? Not saying the city is going to do it on the cheap, but everything is up in the air at this point. Next slide. And how about working with Tampa Bay Water? So we keep asking questions. The city is required under state law now to do something with this 50 million gallons a day that's going into the bay. It's going to happen one way or another. It's like a DOT project, a little sooner. I mean, DOT is going to get their job done sooner. The city is going to take about 12 years from now. But the question is, how safe will it be? How much will it cost? And what will it do to our city? Nancy, you want to add anything to that or take questions? We've got a couple minutes.
I guess the only things I'd like to add is, there's a couple of questions, particularly about the water going into the aquifer. And then in a case of a drought, the question I have is, and one of the contractors brought it up, if you're pulling water out of the aquifer during a drought, what does that do? Does that create sinkholes in the area? I mean, like they did that time during the freeze, but the strawberry farmers pulling water out over several days. That's an issue they've not addressed. And again, to amplify what Phil's saying, treating the water so that it's safe and knowing exactly what's in the water. We're not even sure exactly what's all in that wastewater. So we need to know that.
You drink a gallon of it, you'll be fine. If your granddaughter drinks it all her life, by the time she's your age today, what will be her health status? Until we know the answer to that question, caveat emptor.
And as a reminder, back in the newsletter, I know I've been really pumping the newsletter. Page 6 has got a full article about Pure.
Which says everything I said, but better.
Okay.
And I also want to say we have a webpage on the Sierra Club Tampa Bay group on our conservation webpage. We have more information and questions. And if you have additional questions you want us to add to that page, we're trying to get that information out there. So
Yeah, we're gonna put that slide back up.
Okay, and one more thing I want to announce. Last year, we couldn't do the holiday boat parade. Anybody know about the holiday boat parade? We're the people that put that on. And it's the celebration of the fact that the health of this river, which is our main natural resource, and it's the identity of this community, has been restored in a very big way. And we live in a city with a river flowing through it. The holiday boat parade will be Sunday, December 5th this year.
Okay, so the Sierra. Yep, the Sierra Club website's right here. If you go to that site, there's sort of opened my eyes. There is a ton of information about fracking and the gypsum stacks in Florida. So once you get into that site, good luck getting back out of it. Any quick questions for our two experts here from the Sierra Club and Friends of the River? I'm going to take one question because we do have a few more things to try to cover tonight.
One of the things that I have seen from the state legislators talking about farming of marijuana and the amount of water and usage that they use and the demand that's going to be put on our state to grow marijuana and what's going to happen to the water after that gets approved.
And using this water for watering lawns is one thing. Watering any plant is one thing, but drinking it is another story. Thanks very much.
Okay, folks, thanks again. We're going to go to the next slide, maybe. Sorry, we're having some technical issues. Okay, these are your 4 candidates for the Seminole Heights board. We have 9 people on our board. 4 are named officer positions, and then 5 are trustees. Our bylaws are very interesting in this regard. So every year in October at our meeting, we hold elections. Pretty straightforward because we had 4 open positions and we have 4 candidates. So we use the word by affirmation. So these are your new trustees. At the end of this meeting, we all, including the president, we all become trustees again. The board then will separately decide who are the named officer positions going forward. So the president, vice president, secretary and treasurer, and then the other 5 will become trustees. So that is in our bylaws. It took me a little while to wrap my brain around that, but it actually works very well. So thanks to Bill, who is up here on the right, for coming up with that idea. And we'll put that in play again this year. So there's no reason to vote. We don't have ballots because, again, 4 positions, 4 candidates. So we'll try to complete our tasks right at 8 o'clock here. If you do want to learn more about these 4 candidates, again, it was in the newsletter. They're little mini bios, but I did want the pictures up there. So Alyssa, unfortunately, she's on a conference call this evening. Shirley was tied up. Shirley works at USF. Lynn, of course, is the vice president right now. She's in the room. And Bill is our secretary, and he's also in the room right now taking notes. Next slide. This past weekend, we had the Seminole Heights Garden Tour in our neighborhood, and Susan's going to come up and just share a few very quick words on how the garden tour went.
Good evening. We had the garden tour. Anybody here go to the garden tour Sunday? Okay, I see one hand. Okay, next year you're all going to come, right? Yeah, it's usually the end of October, beautiful time. This year we had 9 gardens. It's all outdoors. We started, we meet at the library, and the funds, this started 5 years ago from a grant with OSHNA for a children's program. The monies didn't come in time, so it kind of moved over to June. And we had a party that year with working with the Friends of the Library and the library to have a great program. And then after that, the Friends of the Library took over this, and all the monies that are done from this tour go to this program and other programs that the library has every year. So it's a great tour. It's not just Old Seminole Heights. We do Hampton Terrace. We had a house in Sulphur Springs this year. So it's a great one. So anyway, we would love for you all to join every year. It's a nice tour. We had 92 people come. So that was a good turnout, we thought. So I hope you can come next year. I also want to share with you the house in Sulphur Springs, very beautiful old home. Near there is the Sulphur Springs Library. I'm sorry, the Sulphur Springs Museum. Go online, look at that, because they have fantastic programs. It's a well-kept secret in our community. A lot of history about all the areas, and it's also history. They do just different lectures, and it's really great. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Susan. Cinda Hitchcock, who's been the chair for the garden tour for the last 5 years. Her phone number's up there. I'm not sure what this is, but maybe it's a Zoom thing. In any case, her phone number's up there. And this is being recorded, by the way, so I'm glad you all consented to that at the beginning of the meeting. It'll be on YouTube later this week. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Can we go to the next slide? I am going to allow Julio Granda. He's going to give you just a quick overview of what's happening in the library. As Susan pointed out, that event supports Summerfest, which happens every summer. It's a reading program, but I'm going to let Julio expand on that.
Good evening, everybody. My name, like Tim said, my name is Julio Granda, and we love having OSHNA here at the library. This is one of our first groups that are meeting here. It's been a crazy year and a half, and we're just starting to get back to being 100%. Just this week, we are starting programs, which is what Susan talked about, the children's program from the garden tour, how it benefits it. We're not going to have any programs at this library until probably next year, but our early literacy programs are launching this week at some of our neighborhood libraries like C. Blythe Andrews on MLK, and they're going to have family story time. This is the beginning to see how programming can evolve. We think that the old way of doing programming is probably not going to continue, and we're trying to figure out how to move it into the future. I think maybe some hybrids is what's going to be happening. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Julio. Again, if you haven't been in the library recently, oh, my prop is on the table over there. Make sure you get your library card. I mean, you can watch TV at home. You can watch movies for free. They have a program called Canopy. It really is amazing, the new resources that are available if you haven't been in the library in quite a while. Tied into the garden tour, again, I keep harping on the newsletter. We were approached by a group, the Seminole Heights Community Garden. If you don't know what that is, we do have a community garden in our neighborhood. It's over along the river. It's on a donated lot from one of our residents. And they approached us some time back saying, hey, we're not a 501c3. We have an opportunity to get a $1,000 grant. Would you guys mind sponsoring us? We did. All we did was we filled out a little bit of paperwork. They did all the heavy lifting. They got the grant. So they got $1,000 coming to them to put a new garden shed on the community garden. It's going to be a very nice garden shed for $1,000, but that's fantastic. And it is a interesting setup over there. It's everybody works together. So it's not like most community gardens where you say, this is Mauricio's plot, this is Tim's plot, this is Susan's plot. Everybody works together and then everybody shares in the crops when they come in. So that's pretty neat. Lynn did a fantastic job putting this graphic together. So we've had a August happy hour, a September happy hour, and an October happy hour each month. We have more and more people coming out. It's outstanding. It's great seeing all of you face to face and giving out a hug occasionally. The next one's coming up in November. It's on Veterans Day, November 11th. It's at 82 degrees west on Florida Avenue. We've spoken to the owner, Kevin, and we've also talked to the folks next door at Ground Foods. So if you want to eat, you can go get your food at Ground Foods. You can go across the streets to Heights Seafood. Both those places will be open that evening, and you can come out and have a little bit of fellowship. And don't forget, if you like to dance, it's salsa night at 82 degrees west. Lynn, you owe me. So they will have lessons. So our party starts at 6. At 7 o'clock, they have salsa lessons. And at 8 o'clock, all of the OSHNA guys who don't know how to dance are going to leave because that's when the dancing starts at 8 o'clock. Next slide. The happy hour, we don't yet have a graphic. I'll come back to you in just a second, Lynn. The happy hour is what we're calling it this year. We're not going to do a holiday party like we've traditionally done at the American Legion, but it still will be at the American Legion. We are going to do it outdoors. I put that up on purpose. The area right to the north, right to the south, sorry, of where the American flag is, that whole area is going to be taken over by OSHNA, and we may consider putting a tent up on the grass, depending on how many people we have RSVP.
And we're adding southeast and south.
And that's a good point. We invited South Seminole Heights Community Association and Southeast Community Association. They're both community associations. That's their title. So we've invited both of those groups to attend with us. So it's a little bit bigger than just the old Seminole Heights folks. The Hampton Terrace folks were, we talked with them, and some of them may attend, but they have a big party already happening in their neighborhood. So some of them may float back and forth. We'll see. And we have another question from Zoom.
I actually just have a comment from the chat. Someone said, thank you, OSHNA. Seminole Heights Community Garden is open to visitors on Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. at 6114 River Terrace.
And there's an article in the newsletter. See the trend here? There's actually an article that Mark Sutherland, who is their communications chair, I believe, and I forget who their president is, my apologies, but obviously they're paying attention out there in Zoom land. He did write a very nice article. I asked if they would start writing regularly, like, hey, what kind of plants to put in the ground? Because Tim's garden reflects that he does not know what he's doing when it comes to Florida gardening. So if we go to the next slide. Yard sale, I got 1 minute. So we had a yard sale. It was great. We had 29 people participate. We had 19 people give up their leftovers to Life's Treasures, which is a hospice charity in the local area. So they came around to 19 houses and picked up items that were still saleable, and they put those in their thrift shops. There's 3 of them in the local area. Already covered the happy hours. As a reminder, we all work together, so we need your help. If you live in the neighborhood, even if you don't live in the neighborhood, we'd love to have you as a member. We'd love to have you on a committee. The Green Space Committee in particular could use some assistance, and our Land Use Committee is starting to grow slowly, but we have a lot to address in that committee. We are going to have a community meeting coming up next month to talk about an apartment building that's going up 280. I'm sorry. Oh, that's right. It is next month, next week. So next Tuesday, if you are interested, there's an apartment complex going up at Nebraska and Sly, 280 units, give or take. 280 additional units. Library is going to be closing now. So next slide. I think that's it. So we do need to exit the library. If anybody wants to talk to me, I'll be happy to discuss those questions with you afterwards. Make sure you pick up a newsletter, and thank you for coming out. Again, thank you to FDOT and to the Pure folks.